Good evening, everybody, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV on another Sunday night for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 4, Blood in the Streets. We're going to break it down for you. I've got an awesome panel, and incidentally, my dad is in the room watching us do this, so that's really cool, too. Hang out. We'll see you guys in 1 second.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, exactly. Ghostface. That's what we do. Yeah. That's what this is, right? Ghostface?
Oh, yes, I'm a big fan of Ghostface Killer.
Yeah, it was your suggestion, Simon,
What
right?
can I say?
It's appropriate for The Walking Dead, Ghostface Killer. I think they go hand in hand.
I know the 411.
Yeah. Excellent, guys. Well, welcome to the show. This is AFTERBUZZ TV. This is, as I mentioned, yet another Sunday night, and this is Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 4, titled Blood in the Streets, and what an episode it was. Really good one, I felt. I kind of feel like at this point, every episode's the best episode so far.
Yeah, a lot of people have kind of given this season a little bit of a bad rap. They've been quite hard on it. But tonight, even just looking in the chat, a lot of people are going, tonight has really brought it home.
And I think that it's because it's going in a very different direction than a lot of people anticipated it to. I feel like every week we're very sure on what's going to happen, and then it kind of takes a curveball. And so that's what I like about it. It's staying fresh, it's staying new, and the plot lines are getting even better and better each week.
Well, absolutely. And
this is what we found over the last couple of weeks, because we've been sort of wondering where a few of the characters are going. We've seen certain alliances and certain divisions, and we just kind of lacked that bit of backstory. We had a lot of questions about Strand's a great example. You know, and all of a sudden tonight we're getting those gaps filled in, and some of it we're liking, and some of it, no. Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, and absolutely, we will cover every single bit of the episode, but it's definitely a good feeling to know that anybody who watches this show for the action, that wants to see the action, they want to see the gunfights, they want to see that, we're starting to see a little bit more of that stuff, and you know, tonight was definitely exciting, and we got our first pirates, we got our first post-apocalyptic pirates. And that's the thing that, you know, the other show obviously has in spades, and it takes time. The world has to get to a point where everybody's sense of morality is gone enough that they can just attack other people, you know, but now it's happening. So now we're getting traces of what that other show looks like. This is becoming the show that we want to watch. Let's introduce ourselves, folks. My name's Ben. I'm Ben Bateman. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ben Bateman Media if you want to shout any of your thoughts at me. I've been live tweeting the episode we've been watching.
You have.
I'm a terrible multitasker, but I'm getting better. I was better this week. I'm joined by Ashley Chatman.
Hey guys, follow me on Twitter, give me a tweet, Ashley_Chatman. I'm also on Facebook at Ashley Chatman. Let's start the conversation.
Mr. Simon Thompson, please introduce yourself, sir.
The only import. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at ShowbizSimon, and also on Facebook at facebook.com/This is Simon Thompson.
Excellent. Excellent. And of course, guys, we are on Twitter as AFTERBUZZ TV. The episode itself is going to be on iTunes as audio. You can find us on SoundCloud, on Stitcher. If you leave your comments and things like that, it allows us to continue to provide free content. We want to continue to provide free content for you guys, free of charge. And so if you give us a rating and review, it helps us do that. In fact, it's the only way we can do that. So please do that to help us. And lastly, of course, we're going to be getting to Carol Watch, which is our weekly segment we're doing at the end of the episode, where the three of us sound off on who we think is this show's undercover Rambo, the sort of most badass undercover transformation we're going to see by the end of the season. We've been taking bets at the end of every episode who it's going to be. This is an exciting one this week. This had some great ones. I can't wait to get to Carol Watch. So remember, #Carol Watch, and let us know what you think at the end of the episode when we sign off during predictions. Let's get into the show.
Okay, where are we going to start with this one this week? Because there's a lot to get through.
Well, we open obviously on Nick, but I think we should jump straight into but we've been boarded, I think is what I would title it as. You know, we got taken over by some pirates, and it turns out that those pirates, it's Jack. It's Jack from the radio.
Notorious Jack,
We all knew that Alicia's mistake was going to come back to bite her in the ass. Everybody knew that. And now all the conversations she was having with her pen pal, her radio pal, they located her and they came to get her. So that was kind of a weird relationship between her and Jack. He seems like a fool, but I can't really decide if she's just being manipulative or if she's actually kind of considering like going with them. I feel like she's just entirely using it.
I felt she was being manipulative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was very similar when there was a scene where she hugged him when they were down below deck, and you could tell from her face that physically she was kind of like, I'm there for you. Facially, she's like, I'm so not there for you. I'm there, I might kill you.
Yeah, she's trying to figure out a plan. Yeah, when she talks with Madison, you know, she's like, I got us into this mess, I'm gonna get us out. So I think that she was just trying to do the very best that she could to make it seem like she was there. I mean, maybe there are some remnants of feelings there, but for the most part, her family comes first, and she probably feels really guilty that she got them into this situation, and so she just wants to, do what she can to get them out of it.
I guess to some degree, this is that thing we were talking about with, like, you watch these shows, and I think one of the early criticisms of this show in season 1 was that people were so familiar with this type of content, with the post-apocalyptic sort of zombies, like, people sort of acting as pirates, so just on land and sea. They felt so much more aware of the way this stuff played out. Yep. They were frustrated to watch characters that seemed so ignorant to the things going on. But of course, in our minds, we've watched 20 or 30 years of well-developed zombie content, especially in the last 6 with Walking Dead on television and other shows. To us, it seems obvious. To these characters, it doesn't. So this tonight, you could see on Alicia's face, she was getting that first moment of, okay, I'm learning something about trust right now. I'm gonna have to probably kill someone. These people I'm with, we're all learning something about, next time, don't ask, Chris. You should shoot him. If you have to ask, if you have to shoot him, it's probably a problem.
Well, trust is something actually that's really relevant here, because we obviously look at her and her relationship with Jack and the conversations that they had on the radio, but Jack and the other guys, Reed and Vida, the people who boarded at the same time, they know more about the guys who were already on the boat than they had got from her. Yeah. So somewhere along the line, someone either within that group or involved in the show that we already met has another link to these guys. That we're not getting quite the full story yet, because she was asked the question, how do they know this? How do they know all of our names? She hadn't given all of the names. So they got that from somewhere.
So I'm guessing it's quite possible that's the kids in the raft they cut. From last episode.
That was going to be my prediction. But I mean, even still, did they get that close to them? Because they were never allowed on the boat.
I guess the other option would be Seth and possibly Seth's dad, though I think Seth's dad is dead. Possibly Seth and the other younger brother. Yeah. But again, Seth only knew a little bit. Yeah. I would bank on the people in the raft from last week.
But did they spend enough time with them? I mean, I might be incorrect here, but did they spend enough time with them to get to know all of their names?
Maybe when they were in the boat.
Yeah.
Maybe when they were in the boat on the way back, they kind of introduced themselves or something like that.
I'm sure it's all going to circle back, and we're going to figure out exactly how. Maybe they found something that had, their names or information. Maybe they were following them, or they were able to transmit their radio frequency or something. But yeah.
Now, I might be barking up the wrong tree here, but maybe they... I don't know if Wi-Fi still works, but in case they use things like phones, and you're looking for phones to connect to find out the names of those people around you, I mean, I might be barking at the wrong technological...
That's how they...
They
ask Siri.
Ask Siri. Siri, who's on the boat?
Right.
Shout out to Siri.
I'm looking for your nearest Denny's. Not what I asked you, Siri, but thanks anyway.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. I definitely thought that was interesting, but I'm sure that's a wrinkle that will be revealed to us. But this is the sort of the first villains we've really had to deal with in the show, right? Am I forgetting anybody that came up in season 1 who was... I guess you had the soldier that they tortured. Yeah. He was kind of a villain. But even then, they kind of made him a villain.
There was, as far as... Yeah, there wasn't really a sort of a villain that carried through, because it was really the first season was about getting from A to B, and trying to escape what they were enduring with The Walking Dead. Right. So that was really the purpose of the first season. We haven't had that villain here. Yeah. I just want to make sure they don't overload this season with too many villains.
Right. Well, this is. I get the feeling with Connor and this group, this will be the first test, and it'll be trying, but we're gonna lose one of the group in this exchange. It's pretty clear. It'll probably happen in the mid-season finale, which is crazy. There's only 3 episodes left until the mid-season finale, which I don't exactly. We were just talking about this right before we went on air. For anybody that doesn't know this, we watch it. We literally walk in here and go on air. So when something like that happens, we're trying to have a conversation. When does it come back? What's the date? It's like, we've got about 4 minutes till cameras roll. We're gonna have to just figure it out. But that's kind of insane to me, because there'll be something big that happens in the mid-season finale. Yeah. And it seems a little early to kill any character just yet. But speaking of characters that would be maybe expendable, let's talk about the conversation between Chris and Ophelia. Sure. A little bit of backstory on those guys, just a little bit of character building. Interesting, right? Yeah. I liked it was sort of like Chris tried to be like, oh yeah, I was seeing a girl.
I've got all the ladies.
I'm a playboy.
I've got a girlfriend in Canada. You wouldn't know her. What was her name? Canadian lady.
He's like, Maria Santos. She was a thing.
Yeah, pick a name. But I love the fact that she turns around and goes like, yeah, don't worry, there'll be women left. And he's like, I'm not thinking. It's like, you're totally worrying about not getting laid in the future. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't be?
Of course.
You still got needs. You're alive. You still got needs.
Do you think there might be a Nick, Ophelia, Chris kind of?
Oh, like a love triangle?
Yeah.
Well, I asked on Twitter since last episode because you guys know I was interested in the Nick Ophelia relationship.
Perhaps too interested.
What would the name be for the ship? And I got all kinds of. Didn't somebody say
Necrophilia?
Necrophilia was the best one.
That took the cake. Yeah.
That's a good one. None of them really were very good, I didn't think. That was probably the best, but I think that would be a weird ship name.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that they shoot Mercedes Mason in this show to look dark, pale, and I think distinctively unattractive. I think they intentionally do it because every picture I've ever seen of her, the times I've seen her or met her in person, she is stunning. I mean, drop dead gorgeous. And even on her Instagram, she posts beautiful pictures, just selfies all the time. But she always seems very kind of like pale and sunken in. You know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
She's made to look very plain, I think is what it is. I thought that was so interesting. I've noticed that each episode.
They do that with quite a few characters, and we've seen this, not to reference The Walking Dead too much, but we've seen that in a lot of characters over there where, they have a lot of really good-looking people in it, but they do kind of make them, I guess they have to because...
Yeah, you can't be done up and, all makeup out. But I also think it could be... because she has the wound.
The wound, yeah, she's a little sick. I thought so too.
I'm thinking that maybe that's starting to play a role in that.
For the record, when I say they try to make her look unattractive, she does not look unattractive. She's still quite beautiful. Just it's clear that there's something going on.
They're dressing her down.
Yeah, way down.
But I think they're doing that with all the characters. I mean, nobody particularly looks, overdone or completely dressed up.
Although some of the guys should have more stubble than they've got at the moment. I'm just going to say nobody's taken time out to go and have a shave.
I thought, honestly, this episode, because you guys know I'm hyper aware of Alicia. I'm a big fan of her.
Yeah.
But the first two shots of Alicia in this episode, she looked gorgeous. They not at all dressed down. My tweet was first two shots of Alicia in this episode, she looks like a damn Bond girl. She has the turtleneck on. You're all right, guys, come on, let's tone it down a bit here.
Right.
Anyway, so moving on to Nick and Luis.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of backstory with Strand, and we will get there, but I think we should hold off on sort of just diving into the whole thing. So Luis is a character that comes from Strand's backstory.
Yep.
But Nick, as we find out later in the episode, was sent off the boat, and we're assuming as soon as they were boarded, Strand went and found Nick and said, "Hey, you got to get out of here. You got to swim to shore. Go find Luis. Go find Luis because we need to get out of here." And Strand then gets on the boat. So Nick, we open up in this. We open up with him swimming to shore. We get kind of a little bit of a nudie shot of Nick, right?
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, it was a big one.
It's a little Nick. What? I didn't look that closely.
A little bit, Nick.
No, I'm just saying, that was clearly we opened. Oh, and we forgot to mention the change in the intro music. That was a big thing, right?
Yeah, I actually didn't notice it until you mentioned it afterwards. It completely passed me by.
It was directly following the scene in the little camp that they found. It's like a survivor camp, which clearly was
rubbish.
Yeah,
because everyone's dead.
And so Nick he does another one of these things where he just puts his face straight up to a zombie. He seems to really find some sort of solace staring into zombies' eyes.
I've got a theory on this because obviously he was a former addict and he's receiving clarity, and I think he needs something as a release, which previously was obviously drugs for him, where he could, effectively because he's using drugs, he'd be on another state.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think he just needs something just to give him a little break from the sobriety, the normality. He doesn't want to go back to the cloudy world of drugs.
Yeah.
But if it means heading off somewhere and being able to kill a walker,
right,
then that's kind of his little, his buzz, his fix.
You think so? You think killing walkers for him is a little bit? That's like a little bit of a bump.
Yeah, but I don't think he needs it in the way that some of the other characters need it, as a kind of a macho thing. I think for him, it's just effectively it's just a different kind of release.
Well, I kind of took it as because right before we started the episode and we saw the preview, how they do previews of previous episodes. Strand says, something about I like you because you're fearless and you're focused.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that he has a very, very different, or I should say, he's very fearless in a lot of ways. His approach to the walkers, his approach to them being stranded, and all of these different situations, he's always approached it very differently from the other characters on this show. So I don't know. I mean, I think that it's because of the drugs, you know, being in those experiences where it's obviously very scary. You don't know if you're going to die or, you know, somebody could stab you, shoot you, or kill you at any moment, or you could just die from ODing. I think that that's kind of given him a weird strength.
Yeah.
And it's really separated him character-wise as how he approaches certain aspects of just everything on this show.
Well, there's a functionality to why he's doing it as well, because in order to get through all the undead, you know, he's got to cover himself with blood. And
of course.
He doesn't take kind of enjoyment from it, because obviously he has to delve into the walker's guts and smear it all over his face, which, you know, he was gagging when he was doing it. I don't know, he's like, oh, this is lovely, it's like a fragrance. You know, so I think it's kind of a meld of all of those three kind of things, really. It's purpose, functionality,
and a bit of fascination. I kind of always feel like he always looks like he's kind of like a kid, like always searching, like when he's walking through the town. He's just kind of,
good point.
I don't want to say lollygagging, but just his whole sway and his whole demeanor towards just dealing with all these different aspects of dealing with the walkers and, you know, all of these crazy things. It's almost like fascination. Like, I want to see, you know,
so they
experience.
They drew a very obvious parallel with this character from the very beginning, right? So you can think of an addict, a heroin addict, somebody who is kind of a zombie. They sort of just limp through life, constantly needing to stay in this one state, this sort of comatose state. It's the same thing, obviously, as a walker, though they have no choice, whereas, you know, an addict has some choice. But I think they're trying to draw that parallel, and they have been since the beginning of the show. So when he is having those moments that he's staring into those eyes, there is a little bit of maybe him seeing himself and connecting. You have thoughts in the chat?
Yeah, Patrick Wasoba says adrenaline junkie, which you know is something we you know we've all mentioned. Winterwolf 915 actually says if it was about the kill, this is a good question actually, good point. He would have killed the female walker that he passed. So yeah, but I think that is absolutely correct. But I think that ties into the functionality because even though it is a bit of a release for him, that you know he did also need to kill that previous walker because he needed the dude's guts on his face.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of both. There's some parallels with Nick and the walkers. Seems like he identifies with them a bit. And Give Me Shelter says, I love this guy's accent. He should be reading an audiobook.
You should be reading an audiobook.
I think that means that basically I could send people to sleep with my voice. Do
you think that
is
it's
a compliment? I don't know.
So are you able to do an American accent at all? Have you tried?
I have tried. I tend to sound like a valley girl or a gay man.
So we should do
which
a thing.
Both are fine.
We should do a thing, one of these episodes where you do the American.
Okay.
And I'll do British.
Okay. That will be the campest episode ever.
Yeah.
So we'll save that for the mid-season finale.
It's probably easier for me than it is for you, right?
Well, we'll find out. We'll have an accent off.
You pick any accent you want.
God, they're doing it again.
I'll just judge. I'll be the Paula Abdul of the group. Like, honey, that was lovely.
That was great.
You need a little work. All right.
So I suppose we'll cover Luis in a minute.
Sure.
Nick does find him. They get on the boat, and Luis looks to be a total badass. But let's talk about the people that he proves himself to be a badass by taking out. And that is the group that is led by Jack, Reed, and Vita.
Yeah.
And obviously Connor seems to be sort of like their head honcho. So
he's kind of the Negan
Yes.
of the storyline, but he seems to be less ruthless than Negan because he's taking people because they have a purpose to him, rather than Negan just going, I'll kill you all unless you want to work with me.
Well, they have a function, as Jack said to Alicia. We all have a function.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's clearly he very calmly is putting people into their sort of boxes, their areas of what is supposed to be going on. So.
But there still is some sense of ruthlessness there, I don't know. I thought a lot about that, the parallels between him and Negan, because, I mean, of course, Negan, we saw a really, really ruthless side to him.
Right.
But I think that was just more so out of necessity because of everything that Rick and their group did. So, I mean, we'll see with, Alicia and Travis now being in their camp, if they cause trouble, which I'm sure they will, what will his reaction to that be? Kind of I have to do it just on a principle type of thing.
Right.
Yes.
So in any case,
apologizing there.
Yeah.
let's go through the characters for a moment. So we've seen Connor, but the least. We've had very little action with him. He just sort of walked in and did his thing. Now you have Jack, who is Alicia's guy.
Yeah.
And he's kind of for anybody who watched Breaking Bad, he sort of reminds me of the Todd character. It's like he acts really nice guy, but like clearly capable of murdering. Like sort of wants you to like him, wants to be really friendly to you, but like ultimately up to no good. Like,
He's a sociopath.
Yes, yeah, fully. Reed seems to just be your black and white, like
the evil villain character.
I never particularly like characters like that in shows like this because they have so little depth. It's hard to really feel like you're just sort of like you're gonna die and it's gonna be satisfying and whatever. Whereas like a character like Jack, you're like this will be much more interesting.
Yeah.
His relationship with Alicia, that'll be a much more interesting death if he dies. And then Vita is just like your whiskey swigging pregnant woman who comes in. That was and she is like they all seem so broken already. They all seem so like ass backwards, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very very like.
She seems the one that's the least together, though, because when they were having the conversation about her pregnancy, it was very much a case of offhand, I haven't been counting.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, she had been counting. She was aware of it. And she was just kind of ignoring what is inevitable, whereas the guys seem to have accepted it. So she's kind of the one that's she's the most in control in some ways, but perhaps the most unhinged in other ways. Yeah. And the guys, they see themselves as effectively having a value by owing something to Connor, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
Well, there was the whole conversation between Dougray Scott and Coleman Domingo about obligation and about owing somebody something. That was clearly the theme of the episode, right? Yeah. Is the concept of debt and obligation. So I thought that was interesting. I owe him my life because he saved my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sort of a cult leader feeling a little bit with Connor.
Well, the conversation that they had in the bar was certainly between Dougray Scott's character and
Domingo?
And Strand,
whose characters' names was Abigail.
Thomas Abigail.
Thomas Abigail.
Yeah. There is this thing. I think what both Thomas Abigail and Connor have done is found people. They've aligned themselves with their stories with people that they know are going to be very vulnerable, and this tends to be something where you want somebody to work for you, or kind of an abusive relationship as well, where you align yourself and saying, "Oh, my mother was absent as well, and my dad died, and I was a single child," and you go, okay, fine, and you get them on board with that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually true, but it's just a way of getting them on board. And I see they've used different lines, Connor and Thomas Abigail, to get people to do their bidding, to do their dirty work.
They see their weaknesses and then they prey on that.
Yeah.
And it's very strategic, it's point by point. But it's really great. Do we know how much time has passed since they've been on the yacht?
Since they've been on the boat? It can't really have been too much.
I'm saying 2 to 3 days.
Oh, you think total?
Yeah.
Days? Really?
2 to 3 days, including the time they went aboard.
Since they went aboard, I'd say that's part of a week. But I think it's 2 to 3 days since they left the island where the Ranger was.
Well, because they were only on that island for a day.
Yeah.
Right? For a day, and we assume they were on the boat for... Yeah, so I guess probably about a week total, something like that.
And it's only been they were on the land when they were in the camps, that they were there for maybe a couple weeks,
a few weeks to a month, probably.
Yeah, so it's just really interesting because Coleman has this crew now, and they seem obligated to him, dedicated to him for whatever reasons. But it's just really interesting because not a whole lot of time has passed since the apocalypse has happened. So
I don't get the feeling they feel particularly obligated to him. It's just sort of a necessity, like
survival type of thing.
A little bit, but they go back to get him at the end there. I mean, the bond of the group is definitely. It's hardening. We're seeing it solidify in front of our eyes, and I guess it does seem like in the end they all are going to work together. It doesn't feel like Strand is actually a villain or anything like that, or any of these characters that we're coming to understand and love are actually going to be villainous yet.
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting because, these people before the apocalypse, like who were they? These are just regular Joe Smo people. The woman just was pregnant and just was happy about having a baby, and the other two guys, I assume, were just living normal lives. So it's interesting, even though we don't know their backstory, we can assess from that, like, wow, this in the few short, weeks or however long that it's been since this whole thing has happened, how quickly people are changing or turning in a sense, and how humanity is really shaping into something horrific so quickly.
Well, a really good point in the chat again from Winterwolf 915, actually Pozo Blue, saying that in season 1 they were protected by the military, and they're learning only now that basically they are very much on their own. There is no military.
Right. Absolutely. True. And I love this part of the story because we're not so far from things really being done, like the civilization just being finished. There is no more hope that we're going to find anything of good, or right? Like, probably by the end of the season, we'll have reached that point. It feels that way.
One thing I'm really interested to find out is Thomas Abigail, when he was in the bedroom talking to Strand, was saying that there's been an outbreak.
Yeah.
And that in itself led me to believe that they knew in some way that...
What had happened before
what had happened, that they kind of knew that there was something that could create an outbreak. So the fact that there's an outbreak, it wasn't like, oh... It just seemed like they knew a little bit more about the fact that this could potentially happen.
Well, so...
I might be reading too much into that, but...
Well, I mean, no, there were cases of it. If you remember, Tobias's character, on the first season.
Yeah, I was reading about it,
there was
hearing
a lot
about
of
it.
different cases out there, but I don't think people were really taking it seriously. So
it was more isolated.
Very true, but I mean, in their particular industry, they seem like people who should have to be in the know about certain things. Maybe they did get warned a little bit earlier than everybody else.
Well, if you guys want to be in the know about something that I think is very important, I should just swerve the conversation for just 1 second to let you know about something I like to call Casper mattresses. Casper mattresses are very comfortable, extremely comfortable. They were awarded as one of Time Magazine's best inventions of 2015. They're in fact the most awarded mattress company now in the world. Incredibly comfortable. Mattress ships free. It's surprisingly compact. It comes in a great box. It's returnable. I love my Casper. So we have a code here if you guys want to try them out. They are wonderful and absolutely the mattress we recommend on this show. Try yours for 100 nights in your own home with free shipping and returns. Go to Casper.com and use the code AFTERBUZZTV for $50 towards the purchase of your mattress. That's Casper.com, code AFTERBUZZTV for $50 towards your purchase. Terms and conditions apply.
All right.
Back to the show.
Yes.
So, guys, let's talk about Strand's backstory. Do you guys ever watch Lost? Did anybody watch Lost?
Here and there. Wasn't too much of a
I didn't stick with it all the way through.
Lost is... it fell apart a little bit in the middle. Like, there's a lot of people... I'm one of those people that think Lost Season 4 is where it starts to kind of... But nonetheless, the first season of Lost is one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched. And it's because they rely on a very specific formula. You have a group of people. You're seeing what's happening in real time as sort of their world is falling apart. And then piece by piece, you're flashing back to their backstory. And it's fascinating. The more you learn to love these characters, the more fascinating one little, like, ship-in-a-bottle episode of what happened before we met them. And this was exactly what I got out of Strand's character. I loved it. I mean, it reminded me so much of watching one of those old episodes of Lost. And if he wasn't already enough of a badass, suave, incredibly well-dressed, a super cool boat, one of the coolest voices, now we find out that Strand is gay, or at least bi. Fantastic plot development.
Yeah.
Right? So... I loved it. I loved their scenes with Dougray Scott from Mission Impossible 2 and other things.
I really loved it because, they did a really good job at the beginning with making him seem like he was going to turn into this villainous character that we couldn't trust. But getting that backstory and seeing he actually does have, genuine, honest motives. And we can assume the whole reason why he wanted to meet in Mexico, he's meeting up with his lover, this guy that either he's with, romantically, or just they have a really close connection with. So I think there's beauty in it, because it was for genuine, honest reasons, and it wasn't just because he was, trying to pull one over on them. But I just interesting to get your thoughts on, their attitude toward him. Like, I get he doesn't really seem like a trusting character at this point, but like, this is his yacht, or we know it's Abigail's yacht. But either way, they assume that it's Strand's yacht, and just kind of how like they kind of want to take more power and position, over the decisions that he makes.
Right.
And I get the decisions that he makes. They look really, really bad. But what do you guys feel about them wanting to, like, we want to throw him off the boat after he's done so much to save them in a sense, and it is his yacht. So.
Well, I thought about this because at the beginning of the episode, they did have that discussion about, especially Travis brought it up and was like, we can throw him overboard. We don't need Strand.
Right.
And then he was talked out of it by Maddie. He was kind of like, he's the guy with the keys.
Yeah.
Right.
But we obviously found out later in the episode that the boat can be hot-wired. So if they really did want to throw Strand off the side, they could have done. They could have restarted the boat without him. I think it's kind of a, when you say, "Oh my God, I could kill that person,"
right?
You don't actually mean you could kill them. And I think it's that kind of thing where it was kind of like they wanted to say it as a release rather than actually meaning they would throw him over the boat. Because they don't need him. Right. They could throw him over the side. They could take the boat and just sail off. Although, as somebody said in the chat room, they haven't really stopped for gas. So they're going to need some fuel pretty soon. So I don't know how far they're going to get with the boat. But they could have easily carried on without Strand. They could have chucked him over the side, but they chose not to. I think the characters like him more than perhaps
they're letting on.
They're actually letting on.
Well, he's a little bit of a love-to-hate character. Yeah. But he's such, I mean, for good...
He's a dick.
He's a dick, but he's like, okay, in the way that some characters and shows I can think of are clearly love-to-hate characters, he's like a love-to-love character. He's awesome. He's maybe the best character in the whole show. I mean, like, obviously, I have my soft spot for various characters, but I think this character is wonderful, and rarely am I like, oh, he's totally in the wrong. God, the backstory just did even more for me. I loved it, and I think the outfit that we see him in when he's talking to Thomas Abigail is the outfit that we find him in originally. So he goes off to close this deal, and
that's where he gets captured or whatever.
Something,
happens.
Something happens. But I thought, some of the stuff when that final conversation that he has when Abigail finds him before they obviously reconvene and become friends or lovers or whatever, is he says, "I didn't pardon you, I obligated you," which again, that's kind of the theme of the episode, right? You get the same feeling with the pirates and Connor. So let's chat a little bit about Alicia and Travis getting taken away by Connor and these pirates. So you got the sense that Alicia's gonna be spared to some degree, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they've been taken. It's not clear as to what their purpose is. Yeah. Because I mean, she doesn't really have a use. She's not good at anything.
Alicia.
Yeah.
Except for being the object of one of these pirates' affection.
Yes, and that's it. And then obviously there's Travis he can do labor stuff. So we don't know why they've been taken.
Right.
But I think one of them is collateral and one of them will be expendable.
But you wonder, if it seems like thus far Jack would be like, no, you can't hurt Alicia.
Yeah,
right?
He's already vied for her, and at this point, probably before they even got on the boat, he was planning that.
Which means, what are they taking them somewhere safer? Are they taking them to their home compound?
I thought so. I mean, that's what it looked like, and I think that they probably are just, they're out scavenging, they're out collecting people to help them strengthen whatever community that they have. And so right now, everything it's about, bringing people together, whether they really want to or not, seeing who is valuable and seeing who has what skills, just so that they can make their community or wherever they are a lot safer or more, resourceful.
They did insinuate they'd be returned, though.
They did.
So... I mean, whether they're pirates, I'm not saying they're the most trustworthy people on Earth.
Right.
But, they did say that they wanted to take them and they would bring them back safe and sound. So if they did take them to land, I kind of don't know what they'd do, because obviously Maddie, out of all of them, is more of the mother caregiver.
Right.
And obviously Nick wasn't there, but Nick is a guy who knows medicine because he was a drug addict. I don't see their value to another group. As if you were going to pick teams and go, I'm going to have that person and that person, you would want to take someone like Strand, or you'd want to take someone like Maddie, who really, or Salazar.
Salazar would be like the first pick. You'd pick Strand and Salazar would be the two you'd pick for survival.
But it seems like an odd choice. I'm not quite sure where that choice is coming from.
Well, they don't know anything about Salazar. He didn't open his mouth.
Of course.
I mean, they know a little bit about these characters, but Salazar was quiet and sat there because he was plotting his next move. So let's talk about then what happens. So a couple things in conjunction.
Sure.
First of all, Luis is coming back with Nick after Nick has somehow just convinced him, like, hey, I know Strand, so we're on the same team. And he drives a sweet Porsche, and he's like, all right, let's use the last of my water pressure. Like, he's very living in the old world still. Has not adapted yet. Because they had this whole idea of the new world they were going to launch in Mexico. So clearly he thinks that despite what's happened, the fact that the whole world's dead doesn't matter. We'll get in Mexico. This money is going to work. I'll drive my Porsche. It's all good. So they get on the dinghy, and they're on the way back to the boat. And he's like, okay, I see people that I don't know. And you're thinking, oh no, they've got the elevated position and a sniper rifle. And he's just like, nope, one shot, two shot, done. So like this guy is a total badass.
Who's the ginger? Done. Take her out. What?
Yeah. So this guy, you're like, we've got a straight up soldier in our ranks now, because the guy that can hit two people from like a moving like little like whatever paddle boat thing, like motorized scooter.
Away, you know?
Yeah. Not those pirates don't stand a chance. So then looks like that wrench looking thing that got dropped, that Travis left, is that what Reed gets stabbed through the back?
Yeah, I believe so.
But then in the preview of the next week's episode, it looked like he was like okay.
I mean, they didn't impale him. You know, I think he's probably dying or bleeding out at that point. Maybe, of course, they help him a little bit because he's the only person who can tell them where Travis and Madison are.
He looked like he took a piece of metal straight up through his body.
I don't know. Maybe they.
It's only a flesh wound.
Yeah.
It's only a flesh wound. He'll be fine.
Only a flesh wound.
He'll be fine. He's slowly turning, but
yes.
you know.
Right.
Thing.
So I thought that was interesting, and we take out the ginger. The other guy, two characters whose names we didn't know actually, and then Reed gets impaled. Do we know what's happened yet to Vita? Did she leave with Connor?
Yeah,
she did.
Vita left with Connor, and Jack left with Connor.
Yeah.
So the only person left on the boat that matters,
Ginger, anonymous guy, and
Reed. And Reed has been impaled by this wrench-looking thing.
Yeah, Reed's kind of screwed.
But Salazar never got his shackles off, or he did.
I didn't see him get his shackles off.
I think he did. I think he grabbed Reed's gun when he went outside to see what happened to the two people who got shot.
Okay, fine.
And so then somebody else grabbed the wrench and stabbed him.
What I like about this whole interaction is that it changes the stakes now for our characters to a point we will no longer have to deal with. We can take on extra people. We're pacifists. We trust people.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore. No. This experience is going to change the entire dynamic of the show, the dynamic of all the characters, and Carol Watch, which we're going to get to in just 1 second, is now kickstarted.
Yes.
That's now we get the trajectory we want for these characters, because none of them are dumb enough to think, oh yeah, we can just let randos on our boat because they look like they're struggling. Like you put them on their knees with a gun to their head and make them explain their story, and then you pull either a Rick Grimes and shoot them, or you just kick them off the boat.
Shoot them in the leg.
Yeah, something.
Or the kneecap. That's even worse.
Yes.
Not that I know from experience, but yeah.
So speaking of which, do you guys want to get to predictions?
Yes.
Let's do it. All right, let's do it. Waiting for the predictions music. There we go. There we go.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay, so two things going on here, guys. The first thing is, at the end of the episode, we're going to announce Carol Watch for one more time. Those who are just joining us, this is the thing we do every week, where we talk about who we think is the undercover badass of the show, who's going to make the biggest transformation by the end of the season from kind of a meek character to just straight up Rambo in disguise. And we're going to each announce our pick at the end of the episode. Obviously, share with us on our Twitters, #CarolWatch, as well as our normal predictions. So first and foremost, why do we think, we'll just revisit this, why do we think they know more about the people on the boat? What's your guys' guess?
You go first.
I'm going to assume that it probably has something to do with the couple in the boat who Strand nixed. But I mean, I don't know. It would have to be something where either there was a radio frequency that somebody was able to tap into that went unnoticed, and so they were listening to people's conversations. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that will definitely be revealed, and I'm wondering, kind of what the significance of that really was, because you don't really need to know a whole lot about people that you're going to just kill and sort of, pirate from, So it just seems interesting. It seems like they've been watched and listened. They've been, kind of being surveilled for a really long time. So I think it might have to do with that group of people who are in the boat, and maybe that might come full circle back, towards the end of the season or maybe next. But that's my prediction for that.
I'm guessing that in next week's episode, when we get back to the compound, we're going to see the people from the flight, the girl and the guy who were cut. They're going to be back at the compound, and it's going to be like a, oh my God, it's you guys moment. You're the reason. I think that's the only explanation, because I don't think Seth and the little kid are going to come back in just yet.
Yeah.
And Tobias didn't know enough about the family that we could assume for whatever reason he would pop back up.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other character that has been around them enough that we could actually expect.
Yeah.
Well, Seth and the kid were really keen to stay on that island.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go anywhere, even though, Dad was a killer and Mum was a zombie.
Yeah.
So that, I don't think we're going to see them just yet. I think we might see them in the second part of the season. I'm still wondering, and it's probably the outside side, I'm wondering if there is somebody else on the boat who has some sort of connection with them.
Oh, like somebody who's a little bit undercover?
Yeah, well, maybe not just, or someone whose paths have crossed and they somehow been passing back information.
Got it.
I mean, there was a bit where Strand was, he went upstairs at the beginning of the episode and he pulls out the gun. He's like, "Oh, you're being paranoid."
Right.
I'm wondering if there's something.
If there's a connection between
Yeah,
them
there's
and-
something going on. Not somebody Strand, but just something. Someone there is not telling the whole truth.
I thought that when he said being paranoid, because he was missing something, right? That was what I thought he went to go look for something and Daniel had taken his gun.
That could have been
That's what I
the
thought.
bit of that. I tell you what, it could have been going like you're being paranoid. It's a bit of
Yeah.
paper that Nick
Yeah.
took to the island where he met Luis.
Got it.
So that's why he could have been going paranoid, thinking, why would anybody take that? And that's why Nick left the boat.
Maybe.
And
Oh,
went to
okay.
get Luis, just because obviously Strand wasn't going to say, "Come and get the guys and come
Yeah.
and take us all to Mexico." He was going to screw them all over. So Nick was kind of playing the hero and going like, "Screw it, I'm going to go to land. I'm going to
it.
get everybody, make this dude come back with the boat." That could be that. But I think someone else there is
Yeah.
they got a leaky ship, not with water.
Something's going on. Okay.
Which is still kind of suspect to me because I don't know when Nick, because I would assume that he was asleep. So it's
Yeah.
like, when did you find time to find him, have this whole conversation, get on the, So I don't know. There's still a lot of holes there for me
'cause-
that need to be filled.
Well, because Strand saw the guys downstairs, so he maybe ran around in some secret way and hid
Yeah.
and found Nick. Was like, "You need to get off the boat right now." That's I think what we're supposed to infer happened there. But
Yeah.
Okay, now next thought. Mexico and getting into Mexico with Strand is priority one
Yeah.
for Strand and for
Yeah,
Luis.
very much so.
But Alicia and Travis is clearly going to be priority number one for everybody else.
Yeah.
So, question: what will happen? What will happen when that conversation comes up between Luis and Strand and everyone else? What will it be?
I definitely think Madison is obviously going to want them to try and save them. And I think she's going to, sort of make her cases as to why they should go there and try to appeal to that. And of course, there's going to be some pushback. But I mean, ultimately, I think that, since there's somewhat of a more of a respect between Madison and Strand, that's sort of developed even over these few episodes, he might give into it. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of pushback, but ultimately I think he'll try to save them.
Gotcha.
That's just my personal prediction on that one.
I'm just being corrected. Apparently, Daniel took the clip.
That's what I thought.
Strand's clip.
That's
yeah.
what
So-
I thought in the last episode. Daniel
be
went
wrong.
to find the stuff. Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not so sure.
Got it. Okay, jumping in then. So 2 more questions.
Yeah.
One, will a character, just a yes or no question, will one of our main characters die in the mid-season finale? Yes.
Yes.
No.
Or no? Yes. Sorry, I take that back. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Talk myself
No.
into it. One of them
Yeah.
will die. Who's it going to be? One answer.
I'm gonna take a big punt, and I'm gonna say Travis.
Travis dies mid-season finale.
Ooh, if I had to guess, I'd say either Daniel or Ophelia.
I am going to go.
No pressure.
Jump.
Jump.
We'll tell you next week, kidding.
Chris.
Yeah.
Chris
Interesting.
dies. Chris dies. So we're saying Chris, we're saying Ophelia, we're saying Travis. Travis dies next season. That's been my prediction all along. I'm sticking with it. Last but not least, guys, this is Carol Watch. Who do we think it is? And this is not by the mid-season finale. This is by the end of this season. Who will have taken the reins as the kind of right now Salazar is acting that way. He's just
Yeah.
sort of being that character. But he also was kind of a badass in the first
Before,
place.
yeah.
So I don't really feel like his transformation is that fair.
Yeah.
All right, who we got? One answer.
Well, I mean, if Nick is, or Chris rather, if Chris is next before the end of this season, I'll still take a whack at him this time, no pun intended. I think he'll be
Chris.
the Carol. Yeah, I'm choosing him for
Chris
the
is your
Carol
guy.
Watch. Just because, he was very timid in the beginning with the should I shoot him or should I not? I
Right.
think that was a learning experience for him. Like, nope, next time I'm just going to blow their brains out.
Yeah.
And then when he, grabs the wrench or whatever that was and stabs Reed, you can just see the anger and the frustration in his eyes and
Yeah.
almost kind of like a switch. And, Madison has to almost tell him, like, calm down, relax,
Right.
stop type of thing. So I think that there's a wall breaking there that's going to force him past that line, that Rambo line.
Mr. Thompson.
Okay, here's where I'm going. I think we're going to see Jack coming on board with the guys and
Yeah.
growing as a character. I think he's going to screw the other guys over.
Oh.
Going to leave Connor and those for dust.
You think he's
If
going to
they
join
survive.
Alicia's
I think he's
team?
going to join Alicia's team, and I think eventually he'll become a Carol character because I think he'll grow a pair. But I think we're seeing Nick at the moment. He's that dude's got bigger balls than an elephant with elephantitis.
Yeah. He's pretty awesome.
They're pretty big balls in this
your
series.
visuals every week.
Thank you.
just get
Sorry,
better
did I
and better.
scar
love
you?
it.
I'm
little
sorry
bit,
about that.
but-
I think it's going to be him because he's becoming more and more of a badass and more of a leader.
character, yeah.
And I think he's going to be my Carol.
Yeah.
I am going to revert back to my initial prediction, and I think unless something drastic changes this, I have a feeling I'm going to be riding this wave until the end of the season. I'm all in on Alicia. Because this is, I think what's going to happen is I think she's going to go into this camp, and I think it's going to be one of these situations where like Jack's not going to have as much pull as we think. We're going to see an uncomfortable scene because she's a young, pretty girl in a post-apocalyptic situation. So some sort of really, really dicey situation with male characters coming after her is going to happen. I think we're going to see a really horribly uncomfortable moment where she kills a bunch of people, kills a bunch of guys to survive, is totally scarred, covered in blood, crying, and it's like we're going to see the psychosis start to change, and she's going to become that character in a second. That's like, it's set up. She's just awesome, and I really think it's her. Something would have to really, really knock me off my stool to change that one going forward.
Well, we wouldn't want to knock you off your stool, would we?
Yeah, no, we wouldn't.
Yeah, I think you like Alicia.
Especially,
I love her. Anybody as a character, she's a wonderful character. Anybody else in the chat have any opinions?
Yeah, we got some interesting ones actually. Chris wanted to finish the guy off. That's fine. Saucy.
okay.
Cheeky. Alicia's making huge strides with her character development. She is manipulating Jack to save her family.
Absolutely.
In terms of becoming a Carol, this is from Moldova 808. In terms of becoming a Carol during character development, it'll be Alicia, Chris, or Ophelia, because Madison, Salazar, and Nick are already tough and badass, which I think is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Alicia is Carol on Fear the Walking Dead, obviously with you on that one. And Marissa B saying, I don't think any of the mains will die mid-season.
Yeah,
which is an interesting point.
I was clearly close to change because I changed my mind mid-sentence.
Yeah. Even you're not sure about it.
Yeah.
Alicia's Carol all the way. Alicia is Carol. Alicia is clearly Carol.
Yeah.
So, and someone niked my elephant balls analogy.
Team Alicia.
That's what I'm here for.
Yes.
Making ball
For great
analogies.
accents and elephant balls. Thank you, Simon.
I make it sound
you
almost
contributed
intelligent.
so much.
Thank you.
That is going to wrap us up, guys. That is the show. Thank you for tuning in to yet another Sunday night. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Remember to tweet your suggestions and predictions with hashtag CarolWatch. Any other thoughts you have, I'm Ben Bateman. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram.
Hey guys, find me on Twitter, Ashley_Chatman. I'm on Facebook at Ashley Chatman. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at ShowbizSimon, or on Facebook, facebook.com/This is Simon Thompson.
Fantastic. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.